everybody. Good evening, everybody. It is time for the Quarantine Cabin. Welcome tonight to the Quarantine Cabin. I'm your host, Albertus Johnson, and it is great to have you all here tonight. I see you coming in here pretty good, so come on in, everybody, and start sharing the broadcast right now. Share the live right now. Let me tell you, tonight is going to be rich, and we're here to take your mind off the election for a minute. I know you guys got a lot going on with that, so right now, turn off CNN. Don't be trying to multitask. Shut that down. It's going to be what it's going to be. And let's focus on you tonight. Let's focus on you and the ones that you love. All right. I'm so happy to be here tonight. Let me see who's coming in so I can say hello to you. I am excited. I see you guys are jumping in here. Virginia, welcome to the Quarantine Cabin tonight. Mother Johnson, welcome to the Quarantine Cabin tonight. Shannon, welcome to the Quarantine Cabin tonight. Antoinette, Elder Felix, Beatrice, welcome to the Quarantine Cabin tonight. Samuel, good to have you tonight. Carla, good to have you tonight. Guys, you coming in here. I'm so excited to have you guys flooding in here tonight. Lori, welcome to the Quarantine Cabin tonight. Hello, Simona. Happy to have you tonight. I am so excited. You guys are coming in here, and it is good to see you tonight. I'm excited about tonight. Regina, welcome to the Quarantine Cabin tonight. Happy to have you. God bless you. All right, Mary Ward McDaniel, welcome to the Quarantine Cabin tonight. Mother Ishmael, India Baker, welcome to the Quarantine Cabin tonight. Welcome, everybody. I am so happy. Mama Zola, good to see you. Good evening, Ryan. Well, Marlene, good to see you, darling. Held it down there in Grand Rapids. Happy to have all of you here tonight. What a great joy it is and a pleasure for us to share. Whether you're watching by YouTube, Facebook, I am glad to have you here tonight, joining us for what I believe is an incredible and very, very important topic. And that is mental health. Excuse me. Mental wellness. I think that we have to continually keep this in front of us, just like we do for our physical health, just like we do for our spiritual health. We have to make sure that mentally we are intact. And so tonight I have an array of guests that have agreed to join me, all professionals in the field. And I feel so privileged to be able to host such renowned and distinguished guests. And so you sit right there, you hold on, because we're going to take you somewhere tonight. And when you leave here, you're going to feel whole. I taught a message. So, well, it wasn't really a message, but, you know, I don't know, sometimes Quarantine Cabin turn into church. So we try to keep it from turning into that. But every now and then we kind of hit where it turns a little bit that way. Anyway, I was talking in the Quarantine Cabin about the lepers and how one came back to say thank you and to be grateful. And it's just very, very important that we remember to take care of ourselves, and to make sure that we check in. Let me do this. I'm going to cut to a commercial. And then when I come back, I'm going to start introducing my guests. Share the live. Go ahead right now. Hit that share button. The numbers are looking great tonight. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Oh, my lovely wife is here. Lady Chantel, grace and peace be unto you, my sweet darling. All right. And so I want you guys to make sure that you stay tuned. Share, call somebody, text somebody, inbox them, tag them here. Let's get the Quarantine Cabin filled up tonight. All right. Watch this and I'll be right back.
Fill this house with your glory. Come on, somebody help us ask him to fill this house. Fill this house with your presence. Oh Lord, we need you to fill this house. Fill this house with your glory. We seeking you, oh Lord. Fill this house. Fill this house with your presence. With your glory, we need you, oh God, to fill this house with your presence. Oh, fill this house with your glory. We need you, Lord, to fill this house.
What an amazing, awesome time we're going to have November 15th right here at Kingdom Life Ministries as we come before the Lord for the refill. This is something God put on my heart a few weeks ago. Our team was able to pull it together, and get this advertisement out to you. We have prepared our house, sanitized, and got all of our protocols in place. We're going to have an awesome time. I want you to join us online. Unfortunately, registration is now filled completely. You can still register. Well, no, today is the last day to register for the overflow. I mean, for the waiting list, and the waiting list is already have people on it. So the best thing to do now is to tune in. We're gonna let you know how you can watch us online and be a part of this great outpour. But those who have already registered, make sure that you are in the house on time, because the doors will close. Doors will close at 6:10 p.m. And at that point, no one else will be allowed in the building. Our staff won't be available to answer the door, because we'll all be in the presence of the Lord for the outpour. And so, open for QCC family. We're going to have a special room for you guys to watch it. For those of you who don't live in the Michigan area, and those of you who were not able to register in time enough, we put the registration out, and 2 days later, it was already overflow. And so people are hungry to get in God's presence, and we're glad. Don't worry, we're coming again. Stay tuned. There'll be more opportunities for you to come and to share in live with us in a worship service. Well, I am excited. Many more of you have come on tonight. I will not be able to greet you personally. For those who have already greeted, love you. Those who just joined me, so happy to see you. I have an array of guests tonight that have agreed to join me and discuss the topic of seasonal depression, also known as SAD, which is the acronym for seasonal affective disorder. And there's other names that is known by, and but I've always heard people say seasonal depression, and so SAD is another name for. And then there are others that you can identify. However, it's this thing, right, that people have around holidays or certain times of the year. I mean, some people get it whenever the season changes. Their mood kind of changes with that season. What is that? Like is it really real? Because somebody asked a question, and this is what really kind of prompted me to have this talk tonight. I had a question come in that says, is such a thing as seasonal depression? And I said, well, I'm going to call the professionals. I'm going to get those who have educated themselves through the education system and have learned. Now I hold a degree in counseling as well. But I got some big heavy hitters tonight. So I'm going to just host, and I'm going to ask the questions, and they're going to give you the answers that you need. And later on in the program, you have an opportunity to ask your own question. Okay. So hold tight on your questions, because our staff is waiting for those, and they'll post those questions. So hold tight for those questions. If you have it, kind of jot it down where you are, and be sure to like, comment, and share throughout the entire program. Keep it going. Y'all see our numbers are really good tonight. Keep them going. Like, share, and comment. Seasonal affective disorder occurs in climates where there is less sunlight in certain times of the year. Symptoms include fatigue, depression, hopelessness, and social withdrawal. Social withdrawal. Now it's okay for you to want to be alone. That's okay. But when it's prolonged and you don't want nobody around, you want to curl up in that little piece of cover. Listen, I do that. When I go home after QCC in the wintertime, well, this is my first time having it. After anything in the wintertime, I go home, I grab a bowl of chili. I have a favorite robe, well, two favorite robes. I interchange, I put them on. I tie them robes real tight right around the top of here where it looks funny. That's right. That's how I do it. My mother bought me a blanket some years ago for Christmas. I get that blanket, put it across the bottom of my feet, get my chili, and whatever I may be drinking Kool-Aid that night. I may be drinking Mountain Dew. Pepsi as strong as I go, because I ain't like some of y'all saints. Anyway, we dive into something tonight. I give me a good strong Pepsi. That's as far as I go with it. And I just curl up, and I don't want to be bothered. Don't call me, don't text me, don't come around. But I don't stay there, right? You have to, if you have prolonged stages of withdrawal, and you listen to the program tonight. We want you whole. We want you healthy. Now, I want to start tonight with the fragrance of our panel, because we have it's three guys and there's only one beautiful young lady who's going to balance us all out. Her name is Jennifer Brundage. Jennifer is a graduate of U of M, University of Michigan. And for the record, let's get it clear. Tonight is the only night, that's why I was told by my producers and by Jennifer, that we can say go blue, because I think Biden must have run Michigan. Okay. So tonight we're saying go blue for that reason and that reason only. Also, she did her graduate studies at Spring Arbor College, where she obtained a master's degree. And I want you to please welcome Jennifer Brundage to the program tonight.
Hey everybody. Well, thank you for letting me be the fragrance. I appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate you, and I want to thank you for sharing tonight with us. And for years you worked for the state of Michigan and in family services, and you've dealt with family issues and really on a large scale.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
And so it's an honor to have you tonight. We'll get into some more of what you're doing right now, because you're doing a great thing right now. And we'll get into that in just a minute. Now I want to go to all the way to Southfield, Michigan, where we have my dear brother. You know, he's not a brother-in-law. He's my brother. For real. And I honor him. He and I have many conversations around mental health and the importance of integrating that into our system of church. And so he is a graduate of the Michigan Professional School of Psychology, and he also holds a master's degree, and he's a practicing counselor. And so I want you to please welcome, and I always call him Dr. Compton, because I'm just speaking to him to the future. Please welcome Dr. Robert Compton to the show tonight. Reverend, how are you doing tonight? You got to unmute yourself. Excellent.
Uh-oh.
All right. Well, don't worry about it. We'll work on that. There's a small technical issue with your audio, but don't worry about that. We have somebody on top of it right now, and I'm going to keep on moving to our final guest. Certainly, last as the church said. I never understood that. Last but not least, as I got older, of course. But when I was a kid, I was like, what they mean?
That's your real heavy hitter right there.
Not least, Joshua Peters Smith is a anointed apostle, prophet, and pastor, but he's also another passionate individual with mental wellness and mental health as it relates to the church and human race at large. His undergrad studies were done at the University of Southern Mississippi, and he also received a master's degree from Liberty University. And so, and he's presently pursuing a doctorate degree. And this is a studious young man who is certainly given to much study, which is weary to the flesh. But he's pursuing excellence, and we honor him tonight. I'm glad to have him. Pastors are busy people, and so please help me welcome to the program tonight, Joshua P. Smith.
Hey, Pop. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, brother.
All right, so let's test Dr. Compton's mic one more time to make sure that he's ready. Can you say something, Dr. Compton, so I know that you're ready? Yeah, we still can't hear you. Yeah.
What about now? Can you hear me?
Yes. Bingo.
There you
go. All right, everybody's here. So do me a favor, Facebook, just for about 30 seconds or less, maybe 10 seconds. Let me get some hearts up for all of my guests tonight. Let's show them some love. And don't forget to like, share, and comment tonight, all right? So let's get into the discussion. Let's start here. Let's start with just a brief opening from each of you on the importance of mental health. And because we are believers, I know everybody watches, Facebook is for everybody to watch. But the reason I want to talk about how it relates to believers is because for so many years, it's been taboo.
Yes.
Because if you save, you go to Jesus. You go to the altar, you give prayer, you cast that devil out. And so that's why I'm making it relevant to those who are believers. Why is it important for really anybody, but especially believers, to care for their mental health and their wellness? I'll start with Jen.
Well, as you often teach in the ministry, we are three-part beings. We are body, soul, and spirit. And it is important to not only minister to the part of us that is spiritual and the part of us that is physical, but also to deal with that soulish realm. That soulish realm is a unique compartment in and of itself, and it has its own unique needs, its own unique proclivities. And so it is important to address it specifically because there is no other part of the being like it. Absolutely.
I love it. Excellent. Dr. Compton?
Well, I'm going to add a little bit to that. Yes. One of the things that we tend to do, and I think this is a Western kind of a concept, that we tend to separate things out. And so when we look at ourselves, that we should look at ourselves as whole beings. So God made us whole, mind, body, and spirit.
Right.
And we tend to separate those things out. The other thing that we tend to do is that when we come to the body of Christ, we come with a lot of things that has happened to us in the past, and we sort of paste Christ on top of it instead of dealing with those issues that lie underneath. So those issues end up being part of our personality. They actually graft themselves into our nervous system, and they color how we respond to things. And so those things end up being automatic. And so when we bring those things to the body of Christ, putting Christ on top of them, not dealing with those things underneath, those things are part of what we bring. And so we automatically begin to get into a loop of behaviors, and we can't break out of them, and we don't know why. And even, I mean, that's just looking at it from that specific point of view. But if you look at it statistically, we know that at least one person out of 5 have an active mental health issue in the church.
Right.
And most of those times, those things are unaddressed. So, a lot of times we put out different things in terms of what we should do and what we had promised in the Lord, but we really don't talk about the process of getting to those things.
That's good.
So it's incumbent upon us to look at our whole being, and also it's incumbent about setting ourselves in a place where Christ can heal the whole being, and that's not parts of the things that we wish him to touch, and then keep these other parts away and think we can deal with those on our own.
Right. But you guys may see me smiling, and let me just say something right here so we can get it clear that this is a very serious issue that we're discussing tonight. I don't take it lightly. When you see me smiling, it's because this really does get me going. I love talking about the mind. I love discussing the brain. I love talking about renewing the mind. And when he said, Dr. Compton said, and again, that's his nickname for the night.
Yeah, that's just the nickname.
Right. So when Robert made the comment about it gets into our nervous system and then colors how we see things, when that kind of revelation comes out, that's like y'all hearing a preach word. So tonight I'm sitting here like a parishioner, and they like preaching. So when they say certain things, you see me responding. It's not because I'm giddy or because I don't take it seriously. This is kind of stuff that I know will bring lasting change in the life of the believer. When we can marry those two concepts of yes, get delivered, yes, get set free, yes, have prayer and hands laid on you, but get the necessary help that you need to maintain that deliverance.
Absolutely.
That's my response. Josh, you want to jump in on that?
Absolutely. These responses are great. I just want to add 3 John 1 and 2, which is one of my favorite scriptures. I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. And so as I often teach, if your soul is not healthy, then no other part of you is healthy, because the Bible says that it is with the mind, I believe that's Romans 7, that we serve the Lord. And so typically what we tend to do in the traditional church is that we over spiritualize everything. And so when we can't find an answer for something, we say, oh, that person just needs to be delivered. I found that some people, they absolutely do need to go through a deliverance process, but some people don't need deliverance, they need healing. Absolutely. And even after they experience deliverance, there is healing. You know where I stand on that. There's an aftercare. If we don't have people walk through an aftercare process, they'll go back to what they were delivered from. And so we actually commit spiritual malpractice when we walk people through deliverance. We get them saved, but we don't walk them through healing. Jesus asked the man a question in John chapter 5, will thou be made whole? And so I'm just adding to what they've already said, wholeness, healing is the journey and wholeness is the goal. And so we're all on that healing journey together, walking into that place of wholeness with the Lord, where we are whole, body, soul, and spirit, all three parts making one.
Amen. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Pastor Josh, because I had started making a statement early on when we first started the program, and it kind of, when I thought I was multitasking and lost my thought. And I was talking about the leper that I had spoke about earlier on another QCC, and that was the point I was trying to get to. That the one that came back, Jesus said to him, "Your faith has made you whole." Well, the others got healing because he healed all of them, but the one that came back for aftercare, the one that came back to connect with his deliverer, he said, "Now you are not just healed, you are whole." And I believe all the people who are watching tonight who are believers need to gravitate toward this mindset that, hey, it's great that you're walking in healing, but again, wholeness is the goal. So to the direct question of the seasonal depression of the I'm sorry, let me say it like this: a seasonal affective disorder. To that question, let's first answer the question: does it exist, Robert?
Well, yes, absolutely. It exists. It's just when you talk about depression in the totality, it's a very complex issue, but it hits a number of syndromes. It hits a number of organisms in the body, and just like a thumbprint, those things can manifest in different ways. Now, when you talk about SAD, that's seasonal depression that happens. What tends to happen, or what they believe tends to happen, is the fact that because of lack of sunlight, as the sunlight gets shorter, then there are some people who sort of manifest, qualities and elements of depression. Okay. And then they sort of connect that to the lack of vitamin D, which is very important. Vitamin D is very important for mood. And the lack of sunlight and sort of the isolation sort of bring those things in. But see, there's other factors that's always going to happen. So, we can talk in a generalized term in terms of how these things sort of manifest themselves. But if somebody was sitting in front of me, we would go through a very in-depth kind of clinical assessment, clinical interview. What kind of other kind of traumas that might have occurred that could help to manifest a depression, even if it's seasonal. If it's something that happens in the family, if it's something that happened around of year, if it happens on an anniversary of some kind of traumatic event, those kind of things. But when you try to manifest just the seasonal depression, there are some elements that are unique to that, but it's sort of birthed out of a whole conglomerate of things that happen for depression across the board.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I would agree with that, brother. It's largely biological, and then it's also circumstantial. You're dealing with, like you said, not only the lack of vitamin D, sunlight, it's also dealing with the holidays and all of the, like you said, conglomerate of stuff that takes place around the holidays. Family that you deal with that you don't normally see during the year, all of that factors into what we call seasonal depression. And not only that, it also can occur in the summer. It also can occur in the spring. It is any time that the changing of the seasons can have that negative impact on you, again, physically or circumstantially. And I'm with you, Bishop. Sometimes I feel a little bit of that in the fall myself.
Yeah. Well, let me ask this, Josh. Number one, is it treatable? Well, let me ask this. Let me back up. Is it curable or treatable? And if either one of those are the case, then how do you get cured or how do you get treated?
That's a complicated question. So let me start here. I would say, tagging along with what the other panelists have just said, you're dealing with a lot. And so it's very important to anyone that's listening. I would say this over and over again. Please do not go to WebMD and try to self-diagnose yourself. Like there's a lot going on. So you can have like purely seasonal affective disorder, which is a biochemical imbalance. And like we said before, there's shorter daylight hours, less sunlight in the wintertime. It can be purely that. And then you can also have a mixture of things, which we've talked about, like, holiday anxiety. It can be clinical depression, some type of trauma that's being triggered. So you can have just one thing or a mixture of other things. And so it's really important that people go to see a professional, because what a professional's job is to do an assessment or a number of assessments with you and see like what's actually going on. If it's this one thing or if it's a number of things. I hope that's making sense. So it's very important that people go and they actually talk to a professional, someone that's licensed, certified, educated, to help them kind of to work through all that they are feeling and experiencing. So if we're talking purely about seasonal affective disorder, yes, it is treatable. It's treatable by things like light therapy box. And so that's just where you go and you're under medical supervision, and they literally put you under a light. They take out the UV rays, but they put you under a light for about 20 minutes a day, and they make sure that your brain is getting the light that is missing from the sun. You can also do, as Dr. Compton talked about, vitamin D. So vitamin D supplements, that's also because you're missing that sun. Now, African-American individuals and people of color, because we have melanin in our skin, we often don't get, the sunlight, the vitamin D that we need from the sunlight anyway. And so we need those supplements to help, give us that vitamin D. So you can also have vitamin D. So, it's that mind-body connection. You can also do therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy treats that because it helps you to deal with those negative thoughts, because thoughts lead to feelings and feelings lead to behaviors. And so you address those thoughts in therapy. It helps you to get a better perspective on what you're sensing, what you're experiencing, and helps you to change your thoughts. Also medication, they have antidepressants that help with serotonin. Serotonin equals mood. And so most of the time with seasonal affective disorder, it's mood. It's a type of depression. And so your mood level is decreasing. And so you may need medication to help increase your mood. So
wait a minute, preacher.
Okay.
Wait a minute, preacher. You're not telling me, you're not telling me that as a saved, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled, fire baptized, got Jesus on my mind, running for my life. You're not telling me that I need some what?
Well, if they had chemotherapy, they would if they had cancer, they would take the chemotherapy. If they were diabetic, they would take the insulin. If they had a headache, they would take ibuprofen. I don't see what the issue is when it comes to mental health, because we're able to prove that this is a brain. There's something missing in your brain. There is a chemical missing. There is something going on biologically. There's some type of imbalance. And so if you go to a professional and a professional says this, that there is something going on, there is a chemical imbalance, we give more grace to the physical side while we're believing God and standing in faith. But when it comes to our mind, our mental health, and our brain chemistry, we just lose it, and we start speaking in tongues in the office, and we know that's of the devil. And I'm not taking no medication, and I don't understand it. So yeah, I said it.
But you know what? I think that it's important to talk about this, and I did that in a playful way. But again, like I said before, this is a very serious subject, and I'm taking it very serious. However, that's just my personality. And so, but let me say this: Bishop Shelby just joined us, and I want to honor him tonight. I know he's very busy, and anytime he takes a moment to step into something that we're doing, I want to say thank you, Bishop. We love you. We appreciate you. We all honor you. We know that God has great things in your future. I don't want to start prophesying because there's something that we'll get together, because I want to share. God has some amazing things in your future. We're glad to be along this journey with you. And so we honor you tonight. God bless you, men of God. And any other pastors that's on here that I didn't see you come on, we honor you and we appreciate God for you. And since I'm on that, with what we're talking about, how important is it for leaders like myself to avail myself to a counselor, a therapist? I mean, do I go to God only, or can I come to you?
You can come to me. A lot of my work. Go ahead.
The truth is, I have. I mean, let's be open with it. I'm totally transparent. I strongly believe in the ministry that God has entrusted to you, to Robert, to Jennifer. I'm glad to be surrounded by people who are professional, Because it's one thing to have somebody approach you in a spiritual manner, and of course we receive that, and we don't diminish that nor the importance of it. But there are just some days that leaders, we carry so much. I was sharing on a program a few weeks ago, and I was talking about the a day in the pastor's life, how we can go from one spectrum of the emotional scale to the total opposite. I'm celebrating with somebody over here because they've gotten healed, or their marriage is gotten better, and then the very next phone call, I got to agree with somebody who's lost a dear loved one, and then I have to deal with being that referee between people who are trying to work things out. Your emotions are all over the place as a leader, because especially when you're a true leader, because you feel like Jesus, the infirmities of the people that you've served. And so you taking all that stuff in, your emotions all over the place. Either you become really strict, and just cold, and try to disconnect, or you connect and have to have these feelings. Listen, I'm gonna take a real quick break. Now, this discussion, we should have did 2 hours. I don't know why I thought that an hour.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we needed a couple of hours to go through this.
But can I get you guys to commit to coming back and really doing a whole symposium on this, where we can block off at least 2 hours?
Absolutely.
So tonight we'll do part 1, but then the part 2 we'll block off some time where we can really sit and get into it, because I want to get some questions if people have questions. But take a look at this, and we'll be right back after this message.
Fill this house with your glory. Come on, somebody help us ask him to fill this house. Fill this house with your presence. Oh Lord, we need you to fill this house. Fill this house with your glory. We seeking you, oh Lord. Fill this house. Fill this house with your presence. With your glory, we need you, oh God, to fill this house with your presence. Oh, fill this house with your glory. We need you, Lord, to fill this house.
That is all happening November the 15th, 2020, right here in Saginaw, Michigan. We're going to be experiencing an outpour of the Holy Spirit entitled The Refill. If this pandemic have left you dry, left you disenfranchised because you haven't had fellowship, you haven't been around people, praising God, worshiping God, and maybe you just feel drained, well, on the 15th of November, we're coming in the house to be refilled. Unfortunately, registration is already filled, but you can watch online, and we'll show you how you can do that real soon. All right. Listen, I want to get back to Josh real quick because I did interrupt you, and you were talking about some treatments that people can avail themselves to when they have these bouts with really any mental illness. I mean, but some are more severe than others, of course. So finish that statement out, but then somebody address how severe is seasonal affective disorder.
Yes, sir. I was done. We went off into the leadership principles, but those were the main ones: the light therapy, antidepressants, talk therapy, and vitamin D.
Okay.
Whether by supplement or by actually getting out into the sun. Some people will actually rearrange like their furniture, whether at home or in their office space, to actually get more direct sunlight.
So it's not is vitamin D, Robert, is vitamin D is it addictive?
Vitamin D being addictive?
Is it?
Vitamin D itself isn't addictive. No, it is a supplement. It is a derivative from a natural source, depending on how you get it. And there's certain things you can do. So vitamin D sort of connects to over 2,000 different genes within the body, and it's really connected to a number of different organisms, how they operate. And so what tends to happen for everybody is we have a lack of vitamin D across the board. And so the lack of vitamin D comes out in a myriad of different ways. I mean, one of the things you can do even for the coronavirus in terms of helping your immunity is take vitamin D. But there's a number of other things you can do as well. But when it comes to the light therapy thing, the light therapy piece, there's some other practical things we can do as well, because there's some things that we do in our lifestyle that sort of offsets our biological clocks and how we work. So the earth rotates on a 24-hour period on its axis. And so the things that most people don't know is that your body is sort of attuned on a circadian rhythm as well. Your organs turn on and turn off. They power up and power down during different times of the day. And we sort of throw that off with a lot of things that we do, including how we eat, how we engage in activities. The phone is a big thing in terms of the light that comes from the phone, the addiction of the phone. It throws off people's circadian rhythms. So one of the things you can do if you don't even have a light box is just to get outside in the morning and get sunlight for 2 to 20 minutes a day, sunlight. That sort of sets your body that it sort of puts you back on your circadian rhythm where like 16 hours later, that melatonin starts to kick in and you naturally get sleepy. So you're starting to put your biological clock back on track. You know, when we eat and how we eat also affects biological mechanism. I mean, there are studies out that certain foods lead to homicidal and suicidal behaviors. How you eat those foods. There have been studies where people have gone into prison.
Chocolate one, is it? Chocolate's not one.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that one.
I said chocolate is not one, is it?
Chocolate actually is if it's dark chocolate, it gives out a lot of dopamine. So that can be good. Milk chocolate, I don't know. You might be off thin ice with that one.
And I'm glad you said that, because my next question was going to be, for those who can afford therapy, some people don't have medical insurance that covers it, and so they find themselves in a situation where if there are some self remedies or some things that they can do to help themselves that don't leave them hopeless. Because when you say, talk to somebody, when you say go see a doctor, for some people that's not an option because they just don't have the wherewithal. So I'm glad you said some of those things. Are there other things that people can do? Anybody can answer this, that they can do at home to get better?
Well, let's start with
suggestion I'm sorry, brother. I do have a quick suggestion. Supervisor, a couple months ago, I never really even heard of this until a couple months ago. I walked in my office, a pair of these. Now, what these are color therapy sunglasses. Didn't know such a thing really existed. What they do is, so they're therapeutic, rather. You put them on and they come in like 10 different colors. Pretty inexpensive. And rather than just darkening your atmosphere, they change to a whole completely different color, whatever the color of the sunglasses are. And they tend, for me, I have noticed, they tend to have a calming effect, but then they got the red ones, the orange ones that have more of an energizing effect. Again, now you brothers, you can chime in, because again, I'm not really familiar with color therapy. This is something really that she just told me about a couple months ago. But in buying the sunglasses myself, actually wearing them, I find that they are kind of anti-anxiety. And so these are really inexpensive. It's something just about anybody could purchase. These are like $15 on Etsy. And then they also have different types where you can get them for guys, for girls, different designs, that different colors. That is just helpful in terms of shifting mood.
Okay. You got a little bit of a connection problem going there, but I think basically we got it. And so I want to ask this, because you talked about that. Before I do that, you want to respond to that? Anybody? I know, Rob, you about to say something.
Yeah, I know a little bit about color therapy, just a little bit, but again, it gets back to the sun and regulation of the sun and getting sunlight into your day-to-day kind of habits. So basically, when it comes to resetting the biological clock, resetting your brain and the circadian rhythms, it deals with yellows and blues. So it's about the yellows being a little bit more sharper and the blues being a little bit more darker, and that sort of sets your clock in terms of releasing melatonin at the proper time later on in the day. And also you can get some evening light. Also helps to reset some things. Not exposing yourself to any kind of light between the hours of 11 o'clock and 4 a.m.
Right.
11 p.m. and 4 a.m. Now, I know some people, they pick up their phone in the middle of the night. You know, they hear a message or they get to the bathroom, they pick up their phone, and the next thing you know, all this bright light is penetrating their eyes. And so that throws off their sleep cycle.
Yeah.
And that shows off how their body is actually, and their mind is actually functioning. So no bright light during that time. Trying to sleep in a totally dark room with no light.
No
Those
TV.
kind of things. See, these are small things that can happen, but again, it also deals with who we're dealing with, because if somebody's having some mild to moderate kind of symptoms, these things can work. But if somebody's having some severe persistent symptoms, you might have to take some other steps and look at medications as possible interventions in conjunction with some talk therapy, because the medications only help to suppress symptoms so that the talk therapy can get through and you can make some connections, and the person won't be going through as many symptoms during that time, which will overwhelm them and cause them to go back to whatever soothing mechanisms or solution behaviors that they have in place to try to bring those things down. And usually those things are alcohol and drugs, because that's the fastest way a person can change how they feel, is through those mechanisms of alcohol and drugs, right?
So we want to recommend to all of our drinking saints.
Wait, oh.
Yeah, all the drinking saints.
All the drinking saints. We have some sunglasses for you. We're gonna put you
sunglasses.
get you some
We
real
say
good.
get the proper sunlight in the daytime.
Turn your phone off.
And at night, exercise. When you talk about biological things, you have to deal with behavior changes, which is usually changes in a person's lifestyle changes, right? Get the proper rest, and get the proper nutrition, supplement when you need, and then medication when you need.
I love it. A lot of folks are responding here, and they're saying how good this information is to them, how much it is blessing them. I appreciate you guys for your comments tonight. I want to get you as much information as I can, and I know we were talking about that leadership piece. Prophet Josh, you and I have a passion for that in terms of making sure that our spiritual leaders are mentally healthy. Spiritual leaders need to be mentally well. Because people are listening to us, we are constantly leading people, and we need to be whole. And so that's one of the reasons why I've come out. That's one of the reasons why I've dealt with the things that I've dealt with openly and being transparent about preaching the gospel and then going home somewhere and being depressed. And you can call it demons or whatever. You can call it demons or whatever, but them demons, if you want to call them demons had me going. And so you watch yourself move in power. You see God using you, yet there are things unresolved in you that you need to get resolved. And so something could happen around the holidays that make the holidays difficult. It could be the loss of a loved one. It could be another traumatic incident in your life that when that time of the year comes around, here you are, either subconsciously or constantly reliving some of that pain. I know, Jennifer, you work with a lot of women and children. Yes. And in your line of work, you've dealt with some devastating things. And so if I go, we were talking before the show, if I have to go to Thanksgiving dinner and see somebody who has brought trauma in my life, that could also cause this seasonal depression, or could it not?
Absolutely. One of the main recommendations I have for anyone, male, female, children, who are dealing with family issues around the holidays, boundaries. They're very important. They exist for a reason. Boundaries can keep people out. Boundaries are designed to keep people out. The thing is, a lot of times, especially we as women, we feel the need to please. We feel the need to placate other people, sometimes at the expense of our own mental health. at the expense of our own wellness, even sometimes at the expense of our own physical body. Children are not often allowed to have the autonomy to say, listen, I don't want you to hug me. I don't want that kiss from that person. Sometimes we'll make the child kiss the person, make the child hug the person, even though we know that that child is uncomfortable with that situation. Boundaries are so very important. And I always try to encourage women and men as well, because sometimes men are very underreporting of the assaults that take place with them. I minister to men as well on my job. The importance of not feeling like having a boundary is necessarily a rude thing, or necessarily a thing where you don't love the person, that there is no fellowship or communication with that person. Sometimes it's just, listen, you are toxic, and I need to love you from over there because I cannot feel safe in your presence. And I really don't want to have a bad Thanksgiving trying to make you happy at my own expense.
Well, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but in our culture, that is so difficult because in our culture, we are touchy, we are huggy, we are kissy, we are sit on the lap. I mean, just historically, we're very physical people. And so if you go to auntie's house and auntie come at you with that kiss, you go like, whoa, don't touch me, or whoa, boundaries. Do you know the whole family gonna lose it on you? That's
why
big.
It keeps happening. That's exactly why it keeps happening.
Jump in, Josh.
Well, I was about to say, hopefully not during COVID. Hopefully we are not looking at people strange when they say, give me 6 feet. But I would definitely agree with that we have to normalize being able to say, this is how far you can go with me. This is my line. I've drawn a line and you can go no further. And being able to have those conversations within the family. I think we've grown up under the what goes on in this house stays in this house, and it is good and well in its place. But there are times when we have to have a conversation about what's going on in this house and what has happened in this family and how it is injuring me, how it is hurting me. And some people are dealing with cycles of pain. I say this all the time. We talk a lot about generational curses in the church, and I know I'm about to mess up here, but we talk a lot about generational curses, and a lot of times what we're dealing with is actual generational trauma. Just generational trauma that's been passed down and perpetuated from generation to generation to generation, and no one has stopped to really deal with it. And so we just call it a curse. No, it's a trauma that keeps getting triggered, and that is triggered around the holidays. It's triggered at the family reunion, and people are they're acting out of their pain. And then we say, it's something wrong with them. No, it's not what's wrong with them. It's what's happened to them. It's what's happened to them that we don't normalize having these discussions. And when you have the discussion, we're going to put you out the family. We don't talk to you. We don't deal with this one. No, there's something going on, and we need to get to the root, because if we get to the root, we can stop the fruit. The behaviors are just the fruit. And so I think that we really...
I'm sorry, but that's exactly what I was saying. And I hear what you're saying, and I agree with it 100%. But what do you do with a person who decides to take the advice that we're giving tonight, set those boundaries, kind of put those lines in place, and then now they go from being maybe physically abused, the entire family now treats them, because you're the odd one out. If you open your mouth and say, it was Uncle so-and-so, or it was Auntie so-and-so, and then everybody else, they might even know the person got some ways, but nobody's willing to expose it. And you be the one that says, he did this, she did that. Well, I'm just not comfortable with how he hugs me. What's wrong with you? That's your uncle. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Your uncle would never hurt you. And now that person is not only traumatized by the physical abuse, now about the rejection of the whole family. Like, you caused his trouble. What did to them?
I'll toss that back to Jennifer.
I'm sorry.
I said I'm going to toss that back to Jennifer, but before I toss that back, I will address that this way. When I deal with people in that respect, I always tell them, you have to be prepared for whatever is going to happen when you do that. And so we walk through, and we do some modeling, we do some rehearsal in therapy, like, what are you going to do if this happens? Because that's a very valid point. It's probably going to happen that your family is not going to be at the healed place that you're at or that you're trying to get to. And so you have to be prepared for how are they going to react? How are they going to respond? But you have to be to a place where, you know, you're not basing your healing on them, because you can't expect the people that broke you to heal you, because if they were able to do that, then we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. And so the responsible thing, you know, in therapy, having a therapist, having a counselor who's trained, is that they will walk you through that process and help you to plan for those scenarios and to not feel bad, guilty, ashamed that, you know, you came out and you said this and you stood your ground and you had your boundaries and then this happened. No, you're prepared going in and you have a plan for how you're going to get yourself out of that situation and not feel ashamed and not feel like you shouldn't have said something.
Good. Jennifer, I'm going to close it out.
And what I would add to that is that a lot of times I have found when clients come forth and they share their truth, there's always community. There is always community somewhere. Now, it may not always be your blood family. It may not always be Big Mom and Granddaddy and the people who you are used to, you know, having that connection with. Sometimes your family will be your church. Sometimes your family will be people that you've known since third grade. And there are absolutely times when I have had to console clients and let them know, well, baby, your third grade best friend, that's your sister now. And often, especially in family situations where there are secrets, they're really not secrets. A whole lot of people really know. And a lot of times things come out, a whole lot of other stuff come out the woodworks too. And so there are absolutely times when it is important, it is imperative to release yourself and then release other people who may also be in the same bondage in the family.
Okay, well, I have a question. I know that we have folks on here tonight that have questions, but I have a question for all the panelists. What you doing tomorrow at 7:05?
I think I'm in class. I think I'm in class.
Whatever you need, I might be available for you.
Okay, let's try. So you have class tomorrow, Josh?
I'm checking now.
If Josh doesn't have class tomorrow, we because again, I can feel the people on here, and I really want to be. I'm gonna take a few extra minutes tonight, but I know I can't take many more than what's been allotted to me.
I have class.
What time you get
don't
out?
Don't let me stop the show,
Sir. What time you get out?
It's an hour, so it's this time, so it's 7 to 8.
So can we do 8 tomorrow night?
I'm available.
I think I can do that for you, Bishop.
Are you? So after class, you jump on after class?
Yes, sir.
Rochelle, I know she probably going back to saying he always doing something. He always coming up with something. Yes,
well,
that's who I am.
For a setup for that, I want the people who are tuned in to look something up. 3 words: cherry blossom experiment. Cherry blossom experiment, and that'll set something up for tomorrow.
Cherry blossom experiment.
Yes, and that goes into epigenetics and some other things that we'll be probably talking about tomorrow.
Okay, can you put
when
that
we're
up?
talking about generational curses, how things are passed through generations, through families? There's some things about epigenetics and how those things are passed on from one person to the next that are crucial. That science and theology are meeting, and so science is giving voice to some things. So in terms of generational curses and how that's passed on, epigenetics is a way to translate that from a scientific point of view and translate theology, how that's actually working.
And this is why we
teaching,
need
brother. Love it.
And it's
all in the DNA.
Yes,
we can do this same. We can do this same time tomorrow. If we do the same time, I would just have to jump off and get to class. I got my time zones mixed up.
Hold on.
So that's on you.
Listen, I'm the one booked. They texted me now. You booked.
I was gonna say you might need
Yeah, the
I was
church.
thinking
Okay.
We'll make it happen.
No, I have a meeting at 8:00. So if your class starts at what time? Just 8 instead?
it would start 8 your time. So right now I would have to get off and go to class.
Okay, so can we do this tomorrow? Can we do 6:30, 90 minutes?
I'm available.
Jen? She froze.
So that's 5:30 my time. Yes, sir.
5:30 your time. Is that tight for you?
I should be good.
Okay, great. So we'll do 6:30 tomorrow until 8. Well, right before 8, so I can jump right off and get on my other meeting. Jen is froze. So that means yes. Anytime you froze, it means you're saying yes.
Silence is
Good
consent.
translation.
So cherry blossom experience. That's what we want to do. Our homework. Experiment. Okay,
Experiment.
cherry blossom experiment. That's our homework for tomorrow. Do that tonight, guys. Look it up. We'll jump into it. We'll jump into it on tomorrow. Before we go, though, I want to. So, are you good, Jen? Because we already voted you yes.
I am, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's 6:30 our time. 6:30 tomorrow. And we'll do maybe 90 minutes, but right under 90 minutes, so I can get to my other meeting.
Sounds good.
So before we say good night, guys, and we got quite a few viewers on here, and I want to make an impact because I don't know what their schedule is. So I want you all to know that it's very, very important that if you are experiencing any of these symptoms we talked about tonight, sadness, withdrawal, fatigue, any of these other things, you just don't feel right. You can't get yourself together. I want you to make sure that it's okay to reach out and get some help. It's really people say, and there were certain words we can't even use anymore because they're offensive words. Like when we were younger, people would say stuff. I'm trying to stay away from the words, so I'm break the rules, but y'all know them words that we can't say. But let me just say this to you. It doesn't make you the C word because you go get some help. It makes you that way if you don't get help. The bottom line is you've got to be okay with people's perceptions. They think something about you anyway, and it's probably not what you think. So you got to dismiss that from your mind and get some help. Churches need it. I thank God for progressive leaders like Bishop Shelby and like Apostle Smith, and even myself, who understand that it's really not an indictment against the Holy Spirit when people get help. I strongly believe in after altar care. I also believe in the power of prayer. And so tonight I want to close the program with praying for those of you who may feel trapped or may feel overwhelmed with the holidays and the seasons changing, and you just don't know how to get your mind clear. I want you to know that you're in the right place. You're in a safe place. I need you to understand that. Quarantine Cabin, even though I know it's on Facebook, it's in a safe place. If you have a question that you don't feel quite comfortable asking on live, I understand that. I want you to know that these 3 persons that you're watching tonight, Jennifer, Robert, and Joshua, would love to help you and help refer you to get some aftercare. So don't feel ashamed to reach out to any one of them here on Facebook. They all, well, I don't think Robert has a Facebook page, right? Yeah. So you have to reach out to his wife. His wife's name is Lily Renee Compton, and she will get him in touch with you. Do you have a website? How can folks find you if they want you?
The only thing I have as far as social media, I do have an Instagram page that I really just started.
Reach out to me and I will get you in touch with Robert. I just made myself his front office manager. Okay, so I'm his front office manager. Josh is on social media. You can feel free to reach out to them. I mean, honestly, because I know that sometimes, being out here can be scary and you don't feel always safe and secure. But I want you to know these are God-fearing people who, number one, they have a relationship with God. So you're not going to be talking to somebody who's going to have you off into something that's going to mess up your faith. They will not harm your faith. They're going to build your faith, and you're going to feel better after being with us these 2 days. So tomorrow, join me for a very, 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 very special QCC. And that's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to come back on, and at that time, we're going to answer some questions. I promise you, we're going to give at least 30 minutes to Q&A. Okay, so we'll spend about 45 minutes or a little better sharing more information with you, and then we're going to open it up for you to ask questions. So if you have questions that you don't want to ask live, inbox me. Well, matter of fact, scratch that. Go to info at alvernusjohnson.com. Email me any of your questions you may have. We're going to take those questions. We'll present those questions to our panelists, and we'll keep you anonymous. We'll read the question and we'll answer it. We want to help. That's the bottom line. We want to make sure that you're not just healed, but that you're whole. So before I go, I want to go back to my guests and give them some closing remarks, and then I'm going to close out in prayer. Jennifer, and then Robert, and then Josh.
Well, thank you, Bishop, for having me on this evening. It's been a blessing to be able to be a blessing to somebody else. Cannot specify enough the importance of tending to your mental health. It's self-care. Self-care is one of the bigger buzzwords now, and it is all right, and more than all right. It is important to tend to the part of you that may be neglected, the part of you that can be easy to overlook from time to time. I'm just grateful for this time to be able to share, and I'm looking forward to being able to share more.
Thank you.
I also want to extend my thanks and honoring you, Bishop, for having this forum. It is something that is really needed, especially in these days and times. I believe we are here to, just share what we have inside to strengthen the body. Each part of us is a cog in the body of Christ, and we are to help those who are connected to. So to talk about something that is pressing for everybody, specifically in these times, and have a forum to reach out and have an open discussion is fantastic. I'm just really honored to be a part of that. Wow. And I just want to talk to my brothers and sisters in terms of those who might be feeling that they're in a place of struggle. That place is a place where God can meet you. He meets you at the place of struggle. And he has the ability to not only meet you, but to carry you to the next level, the next step out of that struggle. But sometimes you have to connect to your brothers and sisters to help you to see that that struggle is an escapable one, because a lot of times we have been in that same struggle. And so usually what happens is that we are given the ability and the grace and the anointing to help those out of conditions and situations that we ourselves have already been in. And so we can share our knowledge in that way. So you're not alone. You're not abandoned. God has not forsaken you. He loves you dearly, and allow us to express his love to you, for you.
Thank you so very much. Josh, I'm going to give you some final words here, but someone is asking what is CBT, so you can answer that while you're doing your final remarks.
Yes, sir. Thank you again so much for having me. Thank you to all the panelists. I've enjoyed being on with you all tonight and looking forward to sharing more with you all on tomorrow night, just doing my part in helping people heal. CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy, and it addresses the thoughts that we have that often lead to feelings. They influence our feelings and impact the way that we behave. So that's kind of a brief, very brief synopsis of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's used for a lot of things: depression, anxiety, and even trauma. So we can maybe get into that some more tomorrow night. Again, thank you for having me. I look forward to tomorrow night. I will say this, that they are saying that the next pandemic will be mental illness. And I honestly believe that with all of my heart and with all of my soul. I've been telling therapists around me and even pastors and leaders that it's time to train and it's time to deploy so that we can help people get through this next pandemic that has been brought on by the current one that we are in. I'll also say to people that, it is okay to reach out. It is okay to get the support that you need. God has multiple ways to heal us. Gifts of healing, that is the only gift, the spiritual gift that's listed in the New Testament that has an S on it. Gifts of healing. And so there are multiple ways to be healed. And so don't put God in a box. Don't limit him and say that he can only heal you at a revival or at an altar. We believe in all of that. But there is a holistic approach. He may have another way to get you the healing and the deliverance that you need. I also say that it is okay to not be okay. It's not okay to stay that way. There's a lot of help. There are a lot of resources. And we'll be back tomorrow to give you another push on the healing journey.
All right. Thank you all so very much. Wonderful closing words. An excellent program tonight. I am so honored to have you distinguished ones with me tonight. And so I do so look forward to having you on again on tomorrow. Good night, my friends. God bless.
Good night.
Listen, QCC, it is an incredible time we've had tonight. I am so thankful for all of these wonderful guests who shared their time with us tonight. I really feel deeply in my heart that this is something we need to continue. And that's why I made the decision on the spot to come back tomorrow and finish it out. 1 hour was just not enough for us to get to some of the issues that we were able to get to, and then have you ask questions and have you be a part of it. So join me tomorrow night right here on QCC at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll come on a little bit earlier. We're going to dedicate about 45 minutes to just some more information, and then we're going to let you loose and ask questions. We're going to answer as many as we can within that half an hour. Okay? You got to be blessed. May the Lord bless you. May he keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and give you peace is our prayer. Watch this commercial, and I'll see you next time right here on QCC. God bless.
Fill this house with your glory. Come on, somebody help us ask him to fill this house. Fill this house with your presence. Oh Lord, we need you to fill this house. Fill this house with your glory. We seeking you, oh Lord.